Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Real Talk with Brian Poduska. I am Lyndon Wilson, the creator of The Difference. The Difference is a digital media platform where we bring a lot of small business owners, entrepreneurs, folks in the real estate industry together and give them a platform to share what's going on in their world and how they're making a difference in their lives, things that are making the difference in their lives, how they're making a difference in their industries, in their communities, different things that's going on in the local communities around that they may be a part of. And so, having said that, if you're interested in being a part of the difference, I'll be running some information, scrolling across the bottom during the show, and get in touch with us. We've got several different things. We've got video spotlights that we can run throughout the day on our channel. We have about 50,000 people that we reach, and a regular viewership of about 3,000 to 5,000 people per week. So if you're interested in getting out a little bit more, let us know. We'll help you with that. You might be interested in a show and how you're making the difference, or maybe you got a story to tell of some things that have made the difference in your life, whatever it may be. We've actually have a show that comes up once a month right now. We are working to get this lady going a couple of times, but it's called the Good Humans series with Holly Haggard. And right now her focus is on helping bring some exposure and understanding to the human trafficking that's going on and how it's happening right in our backyards. And so that's one of the shows that we have. We also have Moving Conversations with James Kern and his guests, Darren and April Mabry, and they talk a little bit about how to communicate better, whether it's in your marriage and your personal relationships and your professional relationships. If you're a salesperson and you're really wanting to know how to connect with someone, they talk about the different ways and understanding of how to communicate. So those are some things that we have coming up each week. And so right now, I think he might be ready, but I'm going to go ahead and bring in our host, the one and only Brian Poduska with Real Property Management Focus, hence why we call this Real Talk. By the way, I was going to send you something this morning. There's another show that's starting to pop up now called Real Talk in Real Estate, without giving too much of a plug. And they actually even have at the bottom, powered by whatever it's powered by. I'm like, well, how clever.
Yeah, sounds like they're stealing our thunder is what's happening.
Now, man, nobody can steal your thunder, Brian. You got too much going on with this show. And that's what's so funny is when I looked at it, and this is why, I wanted to build the difference out the way that we're doing it. And I've said this before, everybody has a book in them. Everybody has a story. Everybody knows someone that has a story. So whatever they call it, however they call it, what is that? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So there you go. I was
just going to say that. Nice. You beat me to it.
So, well, hey man, good to see you. And as always, ready to do this show. I met your guest backstage, so to speak. It's not really backstage since we're all in different locations, but that's the technical term for it. I'm excited to have this guy come on and talk about what's going on with him, and just I think it's just cool, super cool what he does for a living. What his gig is. But tell everybody before we bring him in about Real Property Management, what you've got going on, and I'll run some stuff on how they can get in touch with you while you're doing that.
Yeah, awesome. No, thank you. Yeah, likewise. Happy to be here again today, Lennon. Good to see you. Real Property Management Focus, real quick. We focus on your real estate investments. So we are a full service property management company. We specialize in working with investors who, ideally have multiple properties, or folks that are interested in getting into the real estate investment pool. So we have some tools to facilitate that. We have something called Wealth Optimizer, which holistically looks at your real estate investments from multiple different angles, not just the simplicity of cash flow. But so that's kind of who we are in a nutshell. And yeah, today's guest, we've got Donnie Churchman, owner and president of NAC Development. Not sure if I got his title right, but Donnie and I go back quite a ways. Our boys played baseball together years ago and 4 years. So happy to have Donnie on the show today. Theme today will be revitalization. So what Donnie's got going on, what NAC Development has going on, they're basically in the process of helping to revitalize downtown Frisco. We know the history of Frisco and the tremendous growth it's seen over the last 20 years or so, and kind of left behind in some of that was the development of downtown. So Donnie's been working on this project for several years. It's been a vision of his, and I just wanted to bring him on the show to talk revitalization. We can talk larger picture career revitalization, that get a little bit deeper on the topic. But without further ado, let's bring Donnie in. It looks like he's already here. What's up, Donnie?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be on this show with y'all.
Awesome.
And by the way, backstage was nice. They were fanning me, giving me beers, and they really treat you well backstage. So
I appreciate you saying that, Donnie. Hopefully, we'll get a lot more people on the show when they realize just how plush it is backstage.
Yeah, I'm surprised you showed up.
It's like a private lounge back there. Really enjoyed myself. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, again, thanks for being on the show. Like I said, we're going to talk revitalization, but what I want you to do, if you can, just give a little bit of background on yourself, from personal career perspective, how you got to where you're at today with what's going on in downtown Frisco. Because and obviously we'll provide a little bit more background and details about what is going on in downtown Frisco, because it's exciting. I mean, there's a lot of awesome stuff going on. I spoke to you a few years ago, back when it was just an idea in your head, and to see it coming to fruition is awesome. It's not that there's a skyline downtown per se, but it's definitely changing the skyline of downtown Frisco. So I'll hand it over to you and just tell us a little bit about your background and how you got here.
Yeah, I'll go real quick, macro to micro for you. I've been in real estate development now for a good 20 plus years. Started out in Northern California, working for one of the largest developers, actually the largest developer in Northern California, to really cut my teeth on the industry. Went through the downturn like everyone else did, and I had to decide, what else am I going to do? How can I reinvent myself? And also, how can I hang on to that passion I have of real estate? And the immediate answer for me was I couldn't. There was no real estate to hang on to out there. Kind of looked at what my options were, and we decided to move to Texas. Moved to Texas in 2011, so I've been here almost 10 years. Decided to move here simply for the business atmosphere and a great place to raise kids. And when I first got here, literally the day I moved here, someone who I knew in Frisco, Texas, drove me through and around the city, and we went right down Main Street in Old Town Frisco. And I was really surprised, appalled, shocked that nobody was on the streets down there. There was no activity, no one walking the sidewalks. I'm thinking, gosh, this is the downtown of a pretty large city. What's going on? Learned who does what in real estate pretty quickly in North Texas. Decided in 2016 it was time to get back to do what I'm really good at and what I love to do, and that's real estate development. So started NAC Development January 2016. Took on 21 acres in West Frisco. Got that approved, had a builder take that over from us. I sold it to them. And then it was, what's the next move? And the next move for me was I should probably go more land and get it approved for more homes, and quickly realized D.R. Horton and Beazer and Pulte and all the large builders were going to beat me every time. So had an opportunity to buy a property on Main Street in downtown Frisco. And that one purchase turned into a much larger vision, probably within a week, of what can this one property, which was the old Double Dip custard ice cream place, what can that do for this entire downtown? And over the next year, from fall 2016 to probably end of 2017, just we're quietly and discreetly buying up properties along Main Street and in downtown Frisco. And before word got out that, hey, there's someone up here buying properties, I wanted to make sure the prices didn't go through the roof and we could actually develop them. And we did. We probably about right around 10 different properties turned into 8 different projects. And the first 2 just finished, just completed. And the third is about to be completed here in 3 weeks. So that first one was the patios at the rail. You and I got to have coffee there the other day at La Finca. And the second one is actually should be completed end of this week, is the tower, where there's 8 luxury brownstones for sale to live in. And the third is the NAC Theater, which is a 210-seat intimate theater for live performances. And then we have a good 5 more projects coming in Frisco here over the next 2 to 3 years as well, and moving to our next city, which will be downtown Louisville. And we'll be building a project there in their downtown and revitalizing and creating a renaissance for their downtown as soon as March of 2021.
Very
Wow.
cool. I didn't hear about the Louisville piece, but that's another historic downtown that I think there's a ton of potential there. So that's cool that you guys are looking there.
I'm excited about that city. There's a lot of untapped potential in their downtown.
For sure. Yeah, you mentioned having coffee over at La Finca. There's a lot of cool space available there. Although I guess not available much anymore. But there is one space in particular that is available that we walk through, and that's the corner, basically the corner unit from a commercial standpoint in that building. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we had about 38,000 square feet to lease out there, and we leased it all out except for the main corner on Main Street in South County, which is 4,600 square feet. That includes a rooftop patio overlooking Main Street, and that's for a restaurant. And it's literally the spot I thought would lease first is now leasing last.
Yeah.
It's perfect opportunity, as you and I talked about. It's probably the best locale in all of Frisco right now for a restaurant. That 33,000 cars go by this location every day.
Wow.
And with the parking garage included in the project, it's a nice piece for the restaurant that's ready, right? The challenge I think we've had is in no way, shape, or form would I entertain a chain restaurant going in there. We were looking for unique one-off, two-off concepts. And that takes someone believing in the vision and seeing what we're doing in downtown. And someone who thinks of downtown Frisco and they haven't been there in the last year, they might not be up to speed on what we've done and what the merchants have done down there and all the activity that's now happening. And when they come down and see the project, they're actually blown away and shocked that this is downtown Frisco. And I probably should have said this earlier, now coined the Rail District. By the merchants, and the city have taken on that name. So we literally have created a whole district in an 8-block radius.
Yeah, and I can attest. I mean, driving through there, the foot traffic is definitely there now, where it wasn't, as little as two years ago, I'd say. And yeah, man, that corner restaurant spot, it's got not only the perfect location, but it's got the ability to have a second floor private meeting dining room with a veranda that overlooks Main Street. It's an awesome space. So I'm glad we can talk about it a little bit, because it is. I agree with you. It's probably the best location for a restaurant in the city of Frisco. Yeah,
we've been able to really attract creative, unique businesses there. On the other bookend of that building is a restaurant called Loop, and they're coming from out of state, but it's a ping pong kitchen and bar.
That's right.
And they will have 9 ping pong tables that they rent out by the hour, and then a scratch kitchen and craft cocktails. And it's also a 2-story restaurant. And then we have Tumbleweed Textiles, the Texas branded clothing company. But they also do glassware and leather goods and things like that. That is so unique. And La Finca is a unique coffee restaurant as well, where they roast their beans right there in the store and they distribute their beans to other coffee houses, and they get most of their beans direct, what he calls relationship direct. But he visits the farms where he buys the beans from, and then roasts them right in house. And just, it's so different than the everyday coffee experience that we have. We have a group called Maker's Gym coming in, and they come from New York, and they're doing co-working space for the creative mind. So it's not a WeWork, it's not a Foundry Club or a Common Desk. It's for photographers, videographers, podcasters, you name it. Anything you can do from the creative side, there's now co-working space for you in that building. So it's really coming together. There's a commercial kitchen people can rent out. There's a performance gym that's going to have professional athletes working out there. It's just a neat vibe that we've been able to create. And then you pair that with the rest of downtown, and it's really coming together. And then on the other side of downtown, on the west side of the rail district, up against the railroad, we are planning and in talks with, and here is the breaking news portion of bringing a brewery to the rail district, to downtown Frisco, and literally going tasting here with the preferred brewery here in the next 7 days.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be a destination where we can just hang out, right? I'll know where to find you if I can't get a hold of you.
Yeah, well, it's just go there. You don't even need to call me.
Yeah. So how much space is left, Donnie? How much space is still available down there to develop?
Not much. It's really, you got to get creative. And I always talk about folks that can look at a property and envision it right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's folks that need to see a 2D drawing of it. And then folks need to see, there's others that need to see a 3D drawing. And there's others that still don't see it until it's built.
That would be me.
And yeah, and I can see it when it's not there. And then once I get the 3D drawing, I miss the middle part.
Yeah.
And so it's really tough. It just depends on the person, and what the beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right?
Right.
So what do you want to maintain? Are there historical buildings, for example, that you absolutely don't want to take down? We are in the process of doing that right now. We're in the process of remodeling a building called the Ford Building, is what I call it, on 5th and Main, that was built in 1911. We are remodeling it, and there's a hot yoga studio going in there. There's already a clothing boutique called Bittersweet Ivy right on Main Street that we're expanding. And then at 3:30, I have a meeting with a young lady who wants to put in another idea in the middle space. So we're already filling that out, making it really female-centric. As female-centric helps activate areas, gets feet on the sidewalks. And, we're just doing all these different things. But for the most part, if it's for sale, we've already passed on it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we bought everything we thought was worth developing. But again, that's just my vision.
Right.
There's certainly others that can have other ideas that would work down there. And maybe it's a conglomeration of properties, or it's there are a few empty lots down there that folks can build on. But what we're starting to see is a lot of M Street, for lack of a better term, activity. So older homes being knocked down, and they're building mini mansions, for lack of a better word. Just really cool craftsman style homes down there that are now starting to get built as well. There's actually a home that was just sold. It's an old 1930s home, just sold 10 days ago for $303 a foot.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's unreal. So I know that I'd asked you this before, but what all is involved as far as planning and zoning, and getting the city involved, and what and how they see your vision? And obviously you said when you came to town that there was no foot traffic. So that was the first thing, one of the big things that stood out in your mind. And then you have that vision to create the different businesses and commerce to get the activity going. How do you get towns like that, like Louisville and all of that, to really jump on board with your vision, or how does your vision mesh with theirs? Is that a challenge at all, or?
It's really a dichotomy. it's, Frisco's so different than Louisville. Frisco took the approach of, we want this to happen organically. And they've waited 30 years for a developer to come along and do some of the things we are now doing and have done. And then at that point, they said, hey, let's join hands, right? For example, they incentivized us to build a parking garage at the patios, and they participated in that financially. They're looking at spending $12 to $15 million on building a plaza downtown, widening the sidewalks, make them more walkable, pedestrian friendly. And Frisco had this pent up demand that, I bring in a lady named Linda Congleton out of Irvine, California to do my market research every time. And there was so much pent up demand in downtown Frisco, but I don't think anyone ever studied it to know that. Now,
Right.
Going to Louisville, it's the opposite. The demand's not there, so we got to create it. So we have to create a destination in Louisville, which will then command the demand and eventually self-sustain. So they're a little bit more proactive. They're not saying, let's wait till a developer comes along. They're saying, hey, here's what we would like to do. Here's how we can incentivize you to do it, because it's a greater risk, right? It's a bigger risk for me to go into a town that I know the demand's not there. I don't need to study it, right? I know it's already not there, but I also believe, and which my study does tell me, is we can create it. And that's where I'm saying, all right, City of Louisville, if you want me to do this, if you want our firm to do this, we're going to need you to take on some of that risk with us. And they stepped up to the plate, and they're willing to do that as well.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's my old mentor, his name is George Casey. He's retired now, lives up in Maine. Very, very well respected in residential real estate. But when he was a CEO of a home builder I worked for in California, I'd always come to him and say, George, trust me. And finally one day out of nowhere, he says, Donnie, in God we trust. Everyone else bring data. So when you go to a city with the data and they accept it, believe it, and say, how do we adapt with now knowing this information?
Mm-hmm.
It's refreshing to work with a city like Louisville for them to be able to look at that data and say, okay, we see the challenges. How do we overcome?
So I've got another question for you. I don't want to put you on the spot here. So if I ask one you don't like, you just tell me and we will move on. But
Okay.
when being around and being in real estate for 20 years plus that I have in some capacity, you always hear the complaint that some of these smaller towns don't grow because they're not open to the development, or they're afraid of what's going to come in, who's going to come in, what they're going to bring in with them. And so you wonder, or I've always wondered if that was really accurate. Are there some cities that are just afraid of growth because they don't know what comes along with that? And then people, because you talked about Frisco waiting 30 years, what could have been done 15 years ago, or why did it take so long? I know you talked about it being organic, but have you ever run into those challenges where there's a huge demand and opportunity, but maybe the people that get to pull the levers aren't really on board with that?
Every day. That's just a part of the process,
Right.
Because it goes back to the old adage of people are afraid of change.
Right.
It's not that they don't want to see the growth. I think back to what you said, that's going to be change. And what does that change look like, and how does it impact them? How does
Exactly.
it change, for example, any familial memories, right? For
Right.
those that have been here for a while, how does that impact maybe where their granddad's old pharmacy was,
Mm-hmm.
right? And maybe those in charge with the city had a vision, and my vision doesn't match. But that's to me is kind of where the beauty is that's when I sit down with them and say, let's work it out. Let's collaborate. And what do you want to see? Here's what I envision. And they don't like a certain part of it. Okay, well, if you don't like that, what do you like? And then I hear back from them. So a good example is the city of Frisco's John Lettler. He's their director of development services. Well-traveled, loves downtowns as well, passionate about downtowns as I am. And him and I disagree a lot, but we respectfully disagree. And he likes some of my ideas and I like some of his ideas, and they're integrated. So it's just really working through it. I think anywhere I go, I'm going to upset some people because of change. But I would say for every 100 people that love it, 3 dislike it.
Okay.
So,
Fair enough.
Usually reverse. Usually when I go to a hearing, everyone that doesn't like it shows up.
Of course.
And in this case, in Frisco, all of my hearings, 100% of the people that showed up were there to support the projects.
That is really cool. Makes it a little bit easier, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things that not in California anymore.
Talk a little bit about, the research that you did, boots on the ground, sort of scouting, if you will, that you did ahead of, bringing this vision in front of the leaders of Frisco and the folks that eventually you got on board with it. Because I thought that's a pretty cool story about, some of the, not the data market research aspect, but more the visual and the stuff that gave you some of the ideas of what you implemented.
Yeah. So my grandmother used to be mayor of Pasadena, California, and she was involved in council and her mayorship and all that when they were revitalizing downtown Pasadena, which is now an incredible downtown. My in-laws live in the Greenville, South Carolina area, probably my favorite downtown in the entire country. So it's about where have you been? What did you see? What did you experience? And did you like it? And if you liked it, don't try and change it, just repeat it. And that's what we do, a lot of that. But it's also, I don't know if you remember this, Brian, I even reached out to your wife probably 4 years ago, back when we were still playing baseball. And I was asking Frisco women, Frisco females, what do you think our downtown needs? What do you think, what would you like to see there? Almost everyone repeated, a place to hang out with my girlfriends, right? And you're starting to see that in downtown with 811. Now we have the rooftop bars when that's what was repeated over and over and over again. You hear the term soccer moms. For us at the time, it was baseball moms.
Right.
And they all bring a different perspective. There was one that plans events. There's one that's a district attorney, right? There's one that's a teacher, and they all brought different perspectives of what's needed in our downtown. However, the one overarching theme was we want a place to hang out with our girlfriends, but where can our kids run around at the same time, right? So we heard things like that, which helped us design the patios. But then you go to Greenville, South Carolina, and their sidewalks are so wide, right? And our sidewalks here are 4 feet, and there might be a light pole right in the middle of it. So it's not inviting. It doesn't say mom with the stroller, come walk on our sidewalks, because she can't, right? So if you look at the patios, we actually built our sidewalks to be 18 feet wide. Big difference. And going to Louisville, they came to us with the standard 8-foot sidewalk. And I was in a design meeting with them, showing them one of our properties. And I had to ask them, would you mind if we go to 12 to 15-foot sidewalks? And they all looked around each other, and a jaw or two dropped, and they said, we've never heard a developer say that, right? They always want to go with the minimum standards. And I said, well, downtown development is very different than any other kind of development, right? Because we are building destinations, right? We're building places where we just want people to stay all day long, right? We're not building a community of homes. We're not building a restaurant. We're not building a retail store. We're building all of it. And we want people to come in the morning and stay till the evening. And to do that, you got to think through all of this. And, it's certainly been a challenge. There's tons of learning experiences. The reason I love baseball so much is it teaches you to get back up, right? So we've struck out a lot, but we keep getting back up.
There you go.
And so much so that I think we're creating a really cool downtown in Frisco, and Louisville is going to benefit from that as well.
That's awesome. I have another question. You had mentioned the parking garage and the city of Frisco being involved with that. How important is it? This might be a dumb question, but I've always heard there's not a dumb question except for the ones you don't ask. So I'm asking, how important in having foot traffic is having good and adequate parking. So when you park, you can reach every destination and it's not scattered. Because I think that's one of the challenges that Texas has always had is it's so spread out, right? And then when it's 200 degrees outside, like we get in our summer times, you don't want to walk a quarter of a mile before you get to the next air conditioner.
Yeah, so that's part of, maybe what Brian was talking about as well. And doing my research and studying, I came across the 5-block rule. So there's a 5-block rule in downtowns that people are willing to walk 5 blocks. Once you get to the 6th block or 7th block, they might not be willing to walk that far.
You didn't visit Chicago, did you, man?
What's that?
You didn't visit Chicago, did you?
No.
Or Vegas.
I've been there too much.
I would double that rule in Chicago. But
yes, exactly. But then your feet hurt, right?
Yeah.
So for these smaller downtowns, right? For a downtown the size of Frisco or the size of McKinney or Plano or Louisville, that 5-block rule really works. So for us, it's all right. If we put a parking garage down here, where can they walk to? Well, it's South County, so that would take us all the way down to 3rd Street, right? At that point, what can you have there? And if you know where the Frisco Chamber of Commerce is, there's a large parking lot right behind there. So there's your 5 blocks. So you could park there and now go the other 3 blocks, right? But there's also the different conversations of what kind of, for lack of a better word, public transit could you put into place? So I've heard people talk about golf carts. I've heard people talk about horse and buggies, different things like that, just to be transferring people with. Really, you would go outside the rail district all the way down to the FC Dallas soccer stadium. Mm-hmm. So parking is really important for businesses. Walking is really important for districts.
Okay. So
we had to marry the two.
Yeah, and that's you brought up the potentially connecting the two, the new downtown and the old downtown. And when we sat down over lunch a few years ago, we were just talking larger scale, like what the possibilities are. And if you can, obviously there's a train tracks that go right through, which is a challenge for walkability, but that is still a pretty cool vision if we can get to that point.
Yeah, I would love to see that. And I know the city would love to see that. And that's what creates business, right? Is solving problems. So if you can solve that problem, you just created a business.
Good point. All right.
There you go, Brian. You need another business.
Real train property management.
Real train avoidance.
Yeah.
No, that's cool, man. Because I just remember that conversation, and you think about all the new stuff that's gone up over the last 5 to 7 years, around the library and Toyota Stadium and all the newer restaurants that are there. And if you can somehow, in the middle, you've got the what is it? What is the outdoor food truck area called?
Rail yard.
Yeah, the rail yard. You've got the rail yard right there. That's kind of a nice midpoint, and then you've got your kind of bookend on the with the patios. And I'll throw a little plug in there too, as far as public access goes. You talked about a destination and some place to hang out. There's that the reason it's called the patios is that open veranda that has public access with views too. That's kind of in the middle of that building. So I don't know what the right way to get the word out on that, because it's not visible from the street, but it's a cool little area because it's like I said, public access, and it is right in the middle of downtown. Yeah,
we have a half-acre park is what you're talking about on top of the parking garage.
Right.
That you park in the garage, go up a flight of stairs, and you're on this half-acre park, and now you can see forever. You can see past the Star. I think when we were there, we saw Top Golf.
Yeah.
Right. Out in the distance. And that's a bit of a sight line to be able to see all of that. And we just did our first event there on Halloween for Dia de los Muertos. Had movie night that night. And actually probably should throw this out there. Every Sunday night now, we're doing between now and Christmas, we're doing a Christmas movie every Sunday night on that park, free, right? Just for the residents of Frisco to come on out and bring their kids. And this first one Sunday is Home Alone. There'll be different Christmas movies happening over the next 5-6 weeks.
That's cool.
That is cool. It is cool. What's Frisco projected to do within the next 5 years as far as growth? You know anything about that? I mean,
I don't know.
At what point are they going to max out? Because it just seems like that it is just blowing up there.
Yeah, I want to say we're 180,000 now, 170,000, and they're saying they'll get to around 320. So, with the PGA coming to Frisco, that's going to drive a ton of development on the north side of Frisco, pushing up against Prosper. So there's a lot of development and homes coming in up there. There's still a lot of growth coming in on the east side with Brinkman Ranch. I think they're calling that a $5 billion investment there. I can't remember how many residences, including apartments, are going there as well. That's the buzzkill word in Frisco is apartments. So I don't build apartments. I stay away from that.
Family, it's a little.
Yeah. So there's a lot of growth coming in the short term. When you look at permits being pulled and residential permits compared to the rest of the country, I mean, North Texas is going through the roof.
Right. What do you, I mean, is it the economy in Texas? Is it taxes? I mean, is this just there's just so many people moving here. I mean, obviously, of course you moved here from California, but there's just tons of people from California coming to Texas now. Why do you think that is? I mean, what is it that's so appealing about Texas that, it's definitely not the summer weather.
Yeah, no, it's not. I remember when I moved here, the day I unloaded the truck, it was 110 degrees. It was August 3rd is when Texas had like over 100 days straight of over 100 degrees or something like that.
Right.
4 days straight or something. Yeah, it was crazy. No, I think when you live out of state, to me, and you visit, you're thinking quality of life, right? I can get more for my money. And those are the things you're thinking of. You're insulated from a downturn from a business standpoint because of the variety of businesses here. A lot of cities have two-pronged economies, right? Real estate and government, or technology and real estate. Or North Dallas, North Texas has 3 prongs, right? And you could probably go further than that, 4 or 5, with all the different types of businesses moving here. So there is a huge insulation from downturns here, but you don't necessarily know that as much until you get here, right? Okay. So you might move for that better quality of life, and you might move for the affordability factor, but then you get here and you realize there's way more to it. I had no idea, for example, the school districts, I knew they were good. I didn't know they were as good as they are. I didn't know youth sports were as big as they are. Right. You take that to another level of not just youth sports, high school sports, but then all the activities you can do with your family for pro sports and the arts around North Texas and things like that you don't get all of those things in most cities. And North Texas has it.
Wow. That's good to hear.
I'll throw in my 2 cents there. I mean, I'm similar. We moved down here roughly the same time Donnie did, I guess a year later or so, something like that. But I moved down here as a relocation for the company I was working with at the time. And the biggest aha moment for me was just the tremendous amount of growth going on in the area, specifically, in Frisco is where we decided to live. But just looking around, seeing all the cranes up and the new building and the freshness of the architecture was a stark change from the area that I moved from, the Chicago area. And that's what got me going into, the wheels in my head turning to get into real estate. And so it's a rare, unique community. Like Donnie said, it's a great place to raise a family, do activities with a family. So yeah, it's an old boss of mine. He's a Texan and born and raised, and he said, I'll probably mess up the quote, but Texas. It's the greatest nation in the country. I
That
took
sounds
that.
about right. That sounds about right.
I've stolen that from him and used it a few times, but yeah, it's crazy.
That's true.
So, Donnie, when does the project in Louisville kick off?
Our right now between March and April is where we're projecting to break ground.
Okay. How has, if any, how has COVID affected what's going on in Frisco right now? And then anything, is it delaying anything with Louisville, or how's that, is it having an impact?
COVID for me, I think played a little bit of a role in being able to put the deal in Louisville together.
Yeah.
So that actually helped me, put me in a position to pounce when the project became available. So I think it slowed down the process before. On my projects here, it definitely impacted us for sure, and it still is. We'll hear from crews. A lot of it was the masons, plumbers. You hear that. Oh yeah, Joey tested positive yesterday, and these 5 were with them, so they're now quarantined for 14 days. But I'm seeing that more now than I did back in the spring. There was some of that in the spring that certainly impacted us. But I think people are so used to hearing quarantine now and quarantine for 10 days or 14 days or whatever it is, they just automatically do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely impacts the schedule, which of course impacts the cost. And I think from what I'm seeing, it's actually a little bit worse.
Okay.
However, the news now, for example, Pfizer coming out with the vaccine, et cetera, I expect it to get better pretty quickly.
Right. What about materials? I know that I've got I'm from Arkansas, so big timber country there. And I mean, the sawmills are just running like crazy right now, trying to keep up. And I'd heard that, at one point in time, lumber was hard to get. So if y'all had any trouble with materials as far as
lumber has
building?
been a lot easier in the last 2 years than it was before.
Really?
A lot of that was the tariffs the president put on Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So it was tough to get lumber from Canada until they worked out that trade agreement. I guess he redid when he redid NAFTA. Then it opened up lumber again. But we've had things as simple as a breaker that we needed for our electrical panels at the patios that were stuck at a dock in Florida, and they came from overseas, and they just weren't letting it come out because of COVID. And that delayed us, 6 weeks, something like that. It was stuck there in port for 6 weeks. Just a small little breaker we couldn't get anywhere else. It would be longer, so we just had to wait. So yeah, we've had a lot of things from overseas that we just can't get, that before that's where we would go to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Steel manufacturing has slowed down a little bit as well.
Yeah.
But for the most part, things are readily available if you have a little bit of patience.
Okay. Well, that's all good stuff. Brian, I know you've got a new sponsor for your show. Did you want to give a shout out to that? Are you ready for that, or do you have a different time you wanted to do that?
Oh, let's do it. Let's get Greg some recognition here. Yeah. So today's show is brought to us by Mr. Greg Holberg, owner of Liberator Health Insurance. So I spoke to Greg. Greg was actually on the show a few weeks ago. And it is that time of year. Everybody's kind of focusing on health insurance because of the government marketplace policies that are up for renewal or whatnot. But Greg offers something that's an alternative to that, Liberator Health Insurance. So you don't need to sign up by whatever that date is, December 1st or end of the year. You can join whenever you want. It's an alternative to the government marketplace plans out there. And Greg focuses mostly on smaller businesses, entrepreneurs, and things like that. So Liberator Health Insurance has plans that allow you to see any doctor and go to any hospital or in or out of network. You save 40 to 60% on your premiums. Liberator just insured a family of 4 with great benefits for only $475 a month. I mean, think about that. That's, potential savings of over $500 on average, what that can do for you. So the plans that they offer are in the largest PPO provider network in the United States, covers hospitalization, surgeries, doctor visits, preventative health screenings, teledoc, x-rays, MRIs, labs, pretty much everything that you're going to need. With the recent changes to the healthcare laws, you're now free to choose a health insurance plan that fits your needs, not some expensive government mandated one that fits the one size fits all program. So for more information on how you get a hold of Greg, call him or text him. His name is Greg Holdberg, independent health insurance broker. His phone number is 214-886-4688, or visit him on their website, which was just up on the screen. It's www.liberatorhealthinsurance.com. So a huge thanks go out to Greg. Thanks for sponsoring the show. And anybody who needs health insurance or at least wants to look at an alternative option for health insurance, reach out to Greg. He's a great guy, very knowledgeable.
Yes, he is. When was he on? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, 2 or 3, something like that. Yep.
Man, I tell you what, he opened my eyes to things I didn't know. I mean, nothing against any other insurance company out there, but what they do is so unique. And if you're a small business owner, entrepreneur, something like that, I mean, I encourage you to talk to him, because it's going to open your eyes at the opportunities that are available out there to save money and be covered in different ways than in the ways that a lot of us need to as a small business owner. So we do thank him for being a sponsor, and excited to get that information out for Greg each and every week.
Yes, sir. Awesome. Well, let's see what else can we talk about, Donnie? We got. Are you still playing baseball? You hurting your shoulder anymore?
I haven't thrown batting practice in a few months, so that's nice.
Yeah, I miss those days when you wake up the next day and you can barely lift your arm because you're throwing batting practice for 100 pitches, and you hadn't done that in years. Yeah,
exactly. No, it's I think we talked about it earlier. Just seeing our kids go through sports and the ups and downs of what they have to go through. It translates so well to business that it's why I want my kids to participate in sports, to learn failure, right? Because one of my business partners now, Torrey Hunter, had a great Major League Baseball career, and we really pride ourselves on pushing each other and making each other better. And he always says, "Man, there is no failure if you're learning, right? You are not failing if you're learning, right?" And everyone talks about fail forward, and we just kind of taken that word out, right? Because we don't believe in failing, because we believe in learning. So we've definitely gone through our trials, and we've learned a lot here over the last few years in building these things. And really, I mean, from everything from how do you write a contract with your subcontractors to how do you negotiate with your banks, and all the above, to how do you work your designs out, and where was that design flaw, right? And make sure we don't do that again. So talk with my kids a lot about that. When kid goes to a game and goes 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts, he comes home not so happy. My 13-year-old's playing football now and didn't get a lot of playing time in the last game, but he got in, and in the very first play he tackled the running back for a loss, right? And then he came out of the game and didn't play again. Like, hey man, that's better than last game. You didn't have a tackle.
Progress is progress.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So how I brought up youth sports, I'm not sure, just maybe that's how we met, right? So I just love the lessons that are learned and how it really translates to business, and things I learned when I was 12 years old, still convey in business today.
It's funny you said that, because I've kind of put and Brian knows this, I've kind of put my show on hold, getting the difference going in everybody else's shows. But I coached high school football for 14 years and played minor league football and college football. And so I'm creating my show that I want to do because I love business, and I love how the things I learned in sports and the things that I've watched others learn in sports, how they're applying them now. And so I sat down one day and I'm like, how many kids have I coached over over those 14 years, how many did I play with? How many coaches have I come in contact with? And so, Greg, Donnie, what you're talking about is I want to do my show where I bring on either old teammates, old coaches, people that I've been in contact with throughout the years, and talk about. I want them to share their story of something they learned in sports and youth sports that now they use as one of their principles in business. And whether, it's learning how to lose, learning how to pick yourself up off the mat, whatever it may be. Because I think some of those stories are just, they're fun to hear, they're fun to share. And a lot of us have gone through that or seen our kids go through it. And I think that we are missing that a little bit in our society today, that, it's the tough times that that make you better. I mean, one of my college coaches, he's passed on now, but we were in a pretty big game, and we were playing the number 1 team in the nation. We were number 3, and we were down at half. And his deal was, well, everybody does this when it's easy. It's the ones that goes back out and fights. And so we went back out and fought. We still lost, but we fought. It was it's one of those games where even though you lost, you were proud of your effort. The coaches were proud of the effort. We did everything right. They just were better. That's just the way it was. And
right.
So no one likes to lose, but when you can walk away knowing that it really was the way it was supposed to be. You gave everything and you played the best you'd ever played. You just met somebody that was better that day.
Yeah. One of the things I love, my high school basketball coach, probably the best coach I've ever had, I played baseball in college as well, but my high school basketball coach, best coach I ever had, and we'd be going through, line drills or whatever it was, bleacher runs, and we just feel like we're dying. And he always would yell out, "No one has ever died at one of my practices." I was like, okay, keep pushing. In your back of your mind, you're thinking, well, I hope I'm not the first. Right?
Yeah, really.
It just springs true, right?
Right.
Work harder, keep going, right? Work hard, and good things will happen.
Well, and I think that's exactly right. I think for the young kids as they grow up, they can recall those times where they felt like it was so terrible, and they didn't die.
Right.
They didn't break. They got better at whatever it may be. They overcame it. And so that helps with our confidence. I mean, it really does. I mean, I look back now on my college days and I've got a pretty crazy story. But when things get tough for me, I'm getting on up there in age, and I look back to the college years many, many years ago, and it still helps me dig down and get another gear sometimes and work a little bit harder to reach the goal. Because I'm like, if I could do it back then when no one thought I could, and I didn't think I could, the only people that thought I was going to be anything in sports was my mom and dad. Well, every mom and dad thinks that, right? Right. And so that's kind of what I thought at the time too. Well, y'all just think that because you got to, right? Because I'm your son. But they believed in me, and not wanting to let them down. I kept fighting, and all of a sudden things turned around one day and started getting better. And I will never forget that. And in business, man, business is it's like, have you ever heard Mark Cuban's analogy of business and sports? He said and I'm not going to say it nearly as impactfully as what he does, but he goes, I love business because it's a competition every day. He goes, you don't get an off season. You don't get time off. You don't get time to really prepare for the next challenge because the challenges are coming nonstop. And in sports, you get to prepare for a particular and certain opponent. There's new opponents coming at you every day in business. And the way that he explains it, go look at it on YouTube if you get a chance, because when you're sitting there, and if you've ever played sports, you're like, wow, sports does prepare you for being a professional, and whether it's the owner, whether it's a high level employee, whatever it may be, it prepares your mind to be able to perform at a high level.
Right.
No doubt about it.
Couldn't agree more.
I can tell you, I learned perseverance in coaching with Donnie and how to work umpires. He was absolutely relentless when it came to certain umpires. So there's something to be said about perseverance in business and in sports and coaching.
I think I left you as the only coach on the field a couple times.
Yeah, he found his way out of a few games, working the umpires.
Nice.
Just had to let them know they were doing a good job.
Right. Absolutely. Show them love. So, Donnie, you said you've got you've got someone at the University of Arkansas now.
Yeah, my stepson is a sophomore there.
Okay.
In Fayetteville, he's loving his experience. Actually, my two of my sons that have gone to visit have already said that's where they want to go.
Right.
Which is crazy. Back in 2007, I owned multiple properties in Northwest Arkansas. One we ended up selling. Well, we ended up selling them all. But in 2008, there was this property we owned. It was a warehouse that was being used as is really an event center for the Latino weddings and 16th birthday parties and things like that. And I remembered it very clear. And when my stepson went up there to play hockey, he doesn't now. He changed his mind. But when we went up there, we went to Springdale and drove to the hockey rink. And right across the street was that building that I owned.
Wow.
I said, hey, I used to own that. And I was like, wait, what? So yeah, there it is. So yeah, just a neat area. I love that Northwest Arkansas, especially Fayetteville.
Yeah, it's really pretty up there this time of year. We have a deer lease that's a little bit south of there. It's about an hour and 15 minutes from Fayetteville. So I love up there. Different than Texas because of course you got the mountains, but at least you get to see the colors and the season change a little bit up there. Where in Texas it goes from green to brown back to green, and that's about all you get here.
No, it's beautiful there right now.
So, all right, well, fellas, we're about out of time. Donnie, congratulations on all you're doing, and I'm sure that Frisco and Louisville are happy they met you and all that you're helping them with and what's going on. And I appreciate you coming on. It's great meeting you and getting to spend this time with you. Hopefully we can talk again more about what you do because I love that kind of stuff. I really do. And I'm going to now let Brian, you tell everybody a little bit more about you and Real Property Management. I will let you close us out for this week's episode.
Awesome. I wanted to again thank Donnie for joining the show today. Thanks for coming on and sharing what's going on in Frisco and what now Louisville and everything else. So appreciate you, Lennon. Thanks for the show. Appreciate our sponsor, Greg Holdberg, and thanks again for watching everybody out there. And have a good rest of this week. And we will see you next Thursday. Bye-bye.
The Difference is a proud supporter of the following nonprofits. Creek and Timber Legacy, providing outdoor learning, hunting, and firearm therapy for veterans, first responders, and children with serious illness. You can find more info at creekandtimberlegacy.org. And Sharp Shoes. Through local schools and shelters, Sharp Shoes helps provide new shoes for countless needy people and their families. You can find more info at sharpshoes.org.